the same thing is true in Houston and the training areas there, is that it isn't just the flight, it isn't just the launch of the rocket, it isn't just the astronauts that makes it interesting. If you take an artist through one of the buildings, like the vehicle assembly building, and let them look around, they see all kinds of things that are inspiring. Just the enormous size of that building, it's incredible. It's incredible. And in one of the Bay areas that's waiting for a Saturn V to be assembled is incredible to look up into this opening. And as you see here, there are platforms that would come and squeeze around the different stages of the space of the launch vehicle, and the technicians would work on that, and they'd remove them and roll the thing out to the launch pad. But you have to see the vehicle assembly building to understand and appreciate the size of that place. At one time, it was a large, really an inspiring thing to get involved in. And this, Paul Calley's painting of the step on the moon, this was done a while after the landing, of course. But as a sidelight, Paul, before the launch, had designed the first lunar landing stamp for the U.S. Postal Service. And the astronauts took die plates with them to the moon. And then once the mission was successful and they were coming back, they released the stamp. But so his involvement in this has been long-standing and very deep. But in order to do this painting, he went to the manufacturer of the lunar module. I think it was out on Long Island at Grumman, and did a lot of photography there and a lot of drawing, and was able to accomplish this very large oil painting. And he had it on display someplace, I forget where it was, and Neil Armstrong showed up. And Paul talked with him and right away found a brush and some white paint and got Neil to sign it in that left-hand corner. So that painting is out there somewhere, and it's an extremely valuable piece of work. But anyway, this brings me to an end of the part that I was going to, that I was talking about. But one last thing I'd like to say is that what we've, in the NASA art program, what we have now is a record for the future of some of the most important events of the present, done in a medium that's as old as history itself, the hand and the eye of the artist. So thank you.
Hi there, I'm Bert Ulrich. I work at NASA. First of all, it's a real pleasure to be here with these panelists here. Jim Dean really started a legacy, I think, for future generations and really built up a collection. When he left to go to the Air and Space Museum, there was a gentleman there named Robert Schulman at NASA who took over the reins of the art program and really rebuilt the art program when the shuttle era began. And I'm going to show you some images. Oh, you forgot the Mitchell Jameson piece, which is like a monkey and Scream. But that's another one. Okay, sorry, that was from the Apollo era. What? Oh, that's okay, we're good.
No, that's all right, leave it there. This is by...
Oh, let me go back. There you go.
This was done by Mitchell Jameson, the artist that I had on the aircraft carrier. And as I mentioned before, he was listening to all the reports from NASA about the astronauts on the moon and what was going on, and then they finally returned. And what he was trying to get at here was, what must it have been like to step out on the moon and to look up at that sky and maybe see stars or not see stars, but to look back at the Earth and just look in wonder. And this was the painting that he had done on board the ship, just imagining what that first look would be like to an astronaut.
It's really interesting because it kind of is a juxtaposition to his other piece where he's like this heroic figure, and here he's very, very much more fragile. Anyway, so Bob Schulman began collecting and commissioning artists, including Michael Carroll, who did a wonderful painting of on a launch pad, which we have in our collection. This is a piece by Jack Perlmutter, which was done for the third shuttle mission, and you know, it's just a different interpretation, very graphic. And he was a local DC artist here. Here's a piece by Jim Dean, who just spoke to you, called Shuttle Flowers, which is really a beautiful piece because it sort of juxtaposes the nature that appears at the Kennedy Space Center. It's on a big wildlife refuge. And it's a really bizarre juxtaposition between the nature that you see at Kennedy and the technology that's involved in launching a shuttle. Robert Rauschenberg did a piece for the first shuttle mission called Hot Shot, where it's kind of hard to see, but he has all these sort of references to the space culture of Cocoa Beach and mixes them with pictures of the shuttle, and just an interesting sort of mix. Henry Caselli, who's a portrait artist, really shows an introspective side to what astronauts are about. It's a very spiritual sort of piece. It's called When Thoughts Turn Inward. This is right before John Young went up on the first space shuttle mission. And this is really the special thing that the artists get, I think, when they do commissions with NASA, is that they really get a backdoor view. They get to sort of have access that the public normally doesn't have access to, and they're able to reinterpret to the public through their imaginations what they actually see and experience. And this is a very profound piece, I think. More lighter piece is a William Wegman piece that we had commissioned called Chip and Batty Explore Space. Those are two of his Weimaraner dogs. We loaned him not a real spacesuit, but one of our public affairs sort of spacesuits that they show at exhibits where people get dressed up in little spacesuits and greet children and different people. So he borrowed this suit and sort of stuck the dog in the back of it so that he would peer in. The dog is actually not in the suit. And he took some stereo equipment, stereo styrofoam boxes from stereo equipment, and he created a space station, and then had the dog sort of appearing from the porthole there. And it's a really fun piece. A lot of these pieces, including the Wegman piece, are currently on display on a show that Jim and I both worked on called NASA Art 50 Years of Exploration, which is traveling around the country. It's a sites show. The Smithsonian Institution Traveling Exhibit Service, they put on a show for the 50th anniversary of the agency. And it's now in Huntsville, Alabama, I think. And we also worked on a book on that. Annie Leibovitz did a piece with us in 1999 for Eileen Collins, who was the first space shuttle commander and pilot. And it's a very powerful piece. Eileen personally didn't like the piece, but there was another one of her which is actually really, really wonderful, which we didn't get, but we got this one, which is also quite wonderful. Jean Quick-Dissy Smith is a Native American artist that did a piece called Indian Science, where she weaves in, she's with the Salish tribe, and she actually wove in a woman's dress. And the idea is to bring in the symbolism of giving birth to all earthly things, and how we're all one, and there's an astronaut, and it's the same as a beetle, and we're all made of stardust, and sort of a lot of symbolism in there. Bob Schulman also did a piece, who was the curator of the art program, or the director of the art program, and who built up the shuttle program pieces. He did a piece called After Touchdown, which is also a very somber piece. After the hubbub of the first shuttle landing in '81, you sort of look reflectively back at what is involved. It's really the desert. And again, you see this weird juxtaposition between nature and technology, I think, in the traces of the shuttle there. Chakaya Booker is an artist up in New York who did a piece for the Columbia mission, the one that we lost, STS-107 in 2003. We lost the crew of the Space Shuttle Columbia, and she did a piece which incorporated an actual tire from the Columbia mission, from one of the other missions that came back. And so it's interwoven in this rubber piece, which actually looks like a black star and sort of mourns the crew. Ziggy Benheim is another artist who did a piece for Columbia, incorporating all sorts of symbolism, and really did a lot of research to do that. This is getting more into the aeronautics area. This is a piece on fluid dynamics, the idea of how gases form when solid objects go through them. And this is a piece by Tina York. And Barbara Prey did a piece on the X-43, which was the fastest. 2004, it broke the Guinness Book of World Records. I think it almost reached 7,000 miles per hour. And you sort of get the idea of the speed and the